but I will do a quick introduction to myself. My name is Steve Hughes. I've been a believer for a long time, and we're about to delve into the last 2 years of a journey that's given me dependencies on my walker and other things in my life and how it's changed and what God's done through that. So I'm just going to kick it off here with about 2 years ago now. I used to travel for work and do a lot of things. I work for a national company. I travel all over the country. I do a lot of things like that, and I was really enjoying it. And this thing called COVID hit. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. Yeah. There's been this little COVID thing. It just kind of screwed everything up, right? So when that hit, it kind of put me at home working, just only work exclusively from home. And then it started to tail off in 2021. And we're starting to travel more, and the opportunity was there. I wanted to travel for work again. During which I decided to go get a vaccination shot. For starters, I would say that was not the cause of what I'm about to talk about, but it was common with what I deal with, which is called ALS, and we'll dig into that whole story. It was a trigger point. So we didn't know what was happening. So let's start there. June in 2021. I'm vaccinated, I feel good, I go to New York City, I'm having a good time working again and traveling on the road. It was good stuff. In July, those of you anybody ever finger screw something? You grab it, you just twist the screw, you're like, I can screw that in about halfway, it's easier. So I was used to doing that all my life, and I was like, I'm struggling to grab the screw for this is weird. And then it was a light bulb. I was struggling to get a light bulb in, and didn't know what was going on. I admit it. I chalked it up to getting old. Like, dude, you need to get in better shape. How come you can't touch this thing? So I talked to my doctor. He goes, well, I don't think it's getting old, even though you are. Because he was really helpful that way. But we're not sure what it is. So he set up a meeting with neurologists just to see, could it be related to some of the diabetes I was dealing with? What was it? So people ask about how it was. I said, I don't hurt. I got no pain, no tingling, none of the normal neuropathy things. So I start my story out in the beginning. I was like, how do I phrase this? I went through the following phases. It was unknown. Didn't know what was happening. Wasn't really worried about it too much. Chalked it up to some side thing. Then I was frustrated with it. Because all of a sudden I realized I couldn't button a shirt. Because I just couldn't, why am I losing my fine motor skills? And the frustration just kind of sank in, okay, what's going on? I switched to a lot of polos. I could still get a shirt on at the time. Because I wasn't taking my wife everywhere at that point. So I'm just working through all this and going, what's going on? And then there was a day when I was sitting at my computer. I work on a computer for a living. I program. It's what I do. I sit at a computer and I type. And I was typing along, and all of a sudden I wasn't typing. My brain said I was typing, but my fingers were moving. And as my wife can attest to, it was probably the first time I freaked out a little bit. So that became my panic moment. What is going on? I had no idea. We had a friend who was a hand specialist, who worked at a hand specialist, so she sent us to her doctor, just so I could get in earlier than the neurology appointment. And it was a musculoskeletal specialist. He tested me for everything from carpal tunnel to all kinds of things. And finally he goes, basically, I ran you through all the tests, and nothing that I deal with is what you have. Great. So he wrote up a nice long report and delivered it to us. And we were in Washington, D.C. I was speaking at a customer, and I brought the family along. So we met my son, who was in Virginia at the time, met him and his wife there, and we had a good weekend. And then everybody went home, and I was going to go to work the next day. So I read the doctor's report. So rule 1, never read a doctor's report alone. After you send everybody home. So I open up and read it, and I hit this thing called ALS. And I'm like, okay, so maybe it's ALS. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Not really. I mean, I kind of knew, but not really. And I looked it up on the Mayo Clinic site. I don't go to WebMD. I knew better than that. Let's go find somebody reputable. So I went to Mayo and looked it up, and for the first time, fear hit me. Two to 5 years. Sorry. I think I have to do this. Life expectancy is 2 to 5 years. Reformed tolerance and temptation. But wow, getting hit in the face with your mortality. Wow. So along the way, we had to deal with a lot of that. So the first verses, I got verses for here because without God, okay. In Philippians 4, it says, don't be anxious for anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests before God. But most importantly is the next verse. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts in Christ. So, here, my event to do the same. I told my wife, this is bad. From there, we did a lot talking. It was pretty much us dealing with it. We haven't told the kids. I have 4 kids. All adults, haven't told them yet. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anybody. We didn't know what was happening. We knew it was possible. So, over Thanksgiving, we told my kids. And it was tough. We didn't know what the journey was going to be. We were planning to go to Kenya on a mission trip. We canceled it. Not because we didn't think we could make it. At that point, I still was mostly functional. It was a little bit of things. And with my wife, I could deal with anything. It was awesome. She did great. But we realized I didn't want to get stuck in Kenya. Not knowing, because COVID was still bad, there's still different pockets of the world we were struggling. We were really excited about this mission trip. We had made, it was going to be one of the first times we were overseas since we were first married, and we worked in a mission field then. It was just like, it was great. The people we were with at the church were awesome. We were prepared to go. They knew my situation, like, no problem. We'll find opportunities for you to serve, and it won't be a big deal. So, but we had to make a decision. So we canceled Kenya. Well, I had 2 weeks off. Like, well, I'm not giving those up. So we went to Florida. We did a road trip, and this really gave Sheila and I an opportunity to spend time with God, spend time with each other, and really look at what was next. Throughout that process, the church we were at in Minnesota at the time, by the way, we're getting that part. At this point, I lived in Minnesota, so, cold weather, all the fun things. We had been through a cold winter. It was like, I'm tired of cold. It made me hurt worse. It made everything stiffer. I'm like, can we leave cold? You're going to have to tell me when I'm running out of time, by the way. So I just through the whole process, we're going through a series in 2 Corinthians, and it says, Jesus comforts us in our troubles so that we can comfort others. Follow that up with the common verse that everyone wants to share with you when bad things happen. God works in everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. At this point, my wife and I had that peace. We didn't know why. We still don't know why God did this. I have no idea. At the same time, it's God's plan, not ours. You want peace? Trust him. There was a point in this time when I had, you never know how you're going to deal with a crisis until you deal with a crisis. I don't care what anybody says. You don't know what's going to happen. Each of us have our own life stories, and things happen, and we deal with them differently. The peace that came over my wife and I, just in this idea that at this point we still don't know what it is. What do we do? We had actually went and, at that point, you see the neurologist, been tested, nothing was confirmed. One thing you'll find out about ALS is it's the last thing on the list. There is no diagnosis to say, congratulations, you have ALS. Nope. There's pretty much nothing left on the list. We've exhausted all other possibilities, and that's where we'll land. So in that part of that process, we're like, well, what do we do? The house we're living in will not support me if I start losing my belief. So we don't know how fast this is going to progress. We don't know anything at this point. We're just trusting God. We're like, well, we probably should move. Neither one of us really like the cold. Even though you can brag about it, because you're from Minnesota, you can definitely brag about the cold. But we made a decision to move to Kentucky to be by my parents. And that was a huge part of it. Want to be by my dad again. And we'd been away from here for a long time, about 30 years. And it was like, all right, let's go back there. Now, my wife was like, well, that means I'll move away from my mom and some of her family. So her mom followed us. That worked. And 2 of my kids are down here saying, we actually technically live by more family than we did before we left our family. Yeah, that makes no sense, but that's how it works. God does crazy things. I only have one child who's not here, but his wife is in college and they're not coming until they're done. Or whatever. It's okay. It's one of those things that God does crazy things. So we went to buy a house. Like, okay, we're in Minnesota, we're gonna buy in Kentucky. Still kind of COVID-ish. We drove through a couple times, there was a couple houses, didn't like what we saw. Found a realtor, my daughter was working with the same realtor, and we liked her, we liked them, and all of a sudden, we found a house. Or actually, my wife found the house, and we sent them over to look at it for us. So we did a video walkthrough, by the way. Unheard of kind of thing. I didn't think we would do these kind of things. We video walked through the house. It had a chairlift in it. The price was within our range. We put an offer. We were accepted within 4 hours. So we saw the house through video, and we really cleared it. Through a video walkthrough, and our offer was accepted by that evening. So in 4 hours' time, we just put on the market at 10 a.m. This is when the market was hot. We were moving. So we did it. So frankly, we just figured that's a year ago this week. We did that. So we get through that process, we go and we buy the house. Great. Now we're gonna sell ours. The way we plan to sell it wasn't exactly working out. We lived there 23 years. Those of you who have lived in a house for any period of time in double digits, you realize, of course, you have no idea how much you actually have. We were getting rid of stuff for 4 weeks, and we still had 2 full pods full, and we had to grab a U-Haul truck last minute in order to get everything here. And even then, we didn't get everything here. There was still stuff we left. So it was an interesting process. We moved very quickly, but God provided in great ways. We had friends come do packing days. I can't pack. I can't pick anything up. I can't do anything. We had just people come in there, and they would pack rooms, and my wife goes, I don't even know if we want to bring all that. It's too late. already packed. We're not opening it up until we get to Kentucky, as the way's going to work. And, you know, a lot of that was going on. That was a blessing of the community. God gave us an awesome community surround us and help us just survive that. We settled in, we found this church, looked them up online, so online presence matters. And we were debating if we really didn't know where we were going to go until we got to our house and realized church was 5 minutes away and said, that sounds good. We can do that. So that was a part of the crit. You made it easy. I don't miss a lot because it's only 5 minutes away. In that process, Doc was preaching a sermon, one of the first series that he was talking about doubt. And he called out this passage of Mark 9:24, and the guy who basically said, I believe, help me with my unbelief. Wow. It's like, yes. It's exactly where I'm at. Do I believe God's got something going on? Oh, yeah. Okay, God, help me with my unbelief. It was totally that back and forth sometimes, it feels like, in our lives. Well, we got here, a lot of stuff happened this summer, got moved in, settled in, but one of the other reasons we came to Kentucky was UK's ALS clinic is rated as one of the best in the country. Mm-hmm. We went out there, and we finally, it took us 9 months to get an appointment. I love neurologists, but you can never get on their schedule. We go and see Dr. Sakis. I think I got that pronounced somewhat correct. And he looks at me and goes, does a few things, goes, oh, you have ALS. Well, that was kind of, we've been told maybe not, you have parts of it. Oh no, it's confirmed, you have ALS. And we're like, but why would you say that? Oh, well, I just ran a few tests with you, and you obviously have ALS. I'm like, well, I didn't think it was that obvious, but okay. So I have ALS. Now we settle into it, we know what it is, we know what it's called, we can work with agencies to get help and do things that we need to do to survive. About that time, we went back to Minnesota shortly after for a wedding for my niece, and I'm in a bookstore, and I see this little boat, and it has a verse on it from Jeremiah. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. These are plans for good and not disaster, to give you a future and hope. Not a disaster. Okay. Off the boat, just for the record. It's on my dresser right now. Because it was cool. That was like a verse in time. It's like, okay, we still know what's going on. God's got this going on. We don't know what's going on. God knows what's going on. And trusting Him is what's important. So in this process, I had not yet announced to the world, effectively, that I have this disease. And to the world for me is, I go on LinkedIn to the 5,000 people who follow me in my work world. It's the world I live in, and state the fact that I'm dealing with this disease and it's going to change how I interact and do things. I also posted, I read a blog, a technical blog, I posted on that as well. And still following along with some of the sermons and stuff from 2 Corinthians. It's why we never give up. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long. Yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. So we don't look for the troubles that we can see now, but we fix our gaze on those things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. So as you can see through all this, God continues to reinforce our faith and that He's one in control. Shortly after that, I'm not a superhero moment. I have a pretty good attitude about everything's going on. I do make fun of myself. I do enjoy everybody who tries to shake my hand, who knows better. And when I go to wave at them, I go, hi, and give them the shoulder nudge. Or what Doc says, the guy who nods in the hallway. I'm the guy who nods in the hallway. No, that's all you're going to get from me. I would say, I'm going to read some of this here, because even in the midst of the faith and hope, There are dark and hard days. This is not a journey without its downs. I would love to say that, oh, it's always, God's got, I'm always relying on God. Nope, forgive me for my unbelief. I was not invited or late invited or however we all look at it. I felt slighted due to my inability to move quickly. When there was a meeting at work that was happening in Tampa. Normally, my boss would have said, hey, we're having a meeting in Tampa. In my old way of doing things, I said, hey dear, I'm going to Tampa tomorrow. I know it's last minute, but it's a work thing and we'll figure it out and hop the plane. That didn't happen. I sat there and went, is this because I'm sick? Is it because I can't do this what I used to do? And I think at this point I was in the men's Bible study on Wednesdays. I had a breakdown of breakdowns. I cried for hours. I just felt diminished is the word I like to use. I was less of a person, less capable, I was just less. And Philippians 4 came back. Talking about peace. But what Paul says towards, after that, right? He goes into it in, for I have learned how to be content with whatever I have. Think about that for a minute. Whatever he had a different situation, I didn't have that situation. My situation is different than him, but I can be content. I've learned the secret of living in every situation, with plenty or little, trying to do everything correct for Christ. He's the one who strengthens us. Isn't that awesome? To know we don't have to do it alone. To know that we have an opportunity to embrace Him. That was a tough day. I had plenty of days that were shorter than that, but that one was memorable. I think I even took the next day off. It was tough. It was really tough because the emotions, I feel like, and everything was wrapped into that. So, with all of that, where are we at today? So God has a plan. I don't understand. It doesn't mean that what I'm dealing with, I can't share with others. Like tonight. That's why it was easy for Brian to ask me and me to say yes. God's good. I have a Caring Bridge site. A lot of these verses we pulled right off of them. Why does that matter? Because God is good. And sharing it with anybody, everybody. There are people who have no idea who Christ is that read that. If I can share a little bit with them through that and through my journey, great. I actually work on giving back. I'm doing, I write blog posts about the tools I use to make it so I can keep working and functioning. Hopefully it'll help someone. Finding out that more people are reading that than I realized. I'm planning to work with the ALS Foundation to see what I can do and present on those tools to help further other people's ability to work. It's a weird thing, having this disease, it's really easy to give up. And being able to continue to work and function and contribute and do things makes it less of a burden at times. I'm working directly with Microsoft. I work for Microsoft team, so I'm working with the people who write the voice software. So I can actually yell at as I told them this morning. So when I yell at my computer to do things, it will do things for me. It's very nice. But I use it for typing and for commands and all those kind of things. And I'm working with a team that built it. So we can help them make it better for everyone else. I'm in a unique position. I tested a lot of software through the years. So they actually get someone who can give them good feedback and something they would rarely not always get. So it's an opportunity. I stay active and visible. People know who I am here. I have a really cool red locker. You can identify me. This disease, the part that really sucks about it, frankly, is that it's always changing. So what I can do today is not what I'll be able to do in 3 weeks or a week. It'll constantly change, and people at this church will be on this journey with me because they'll see the change. I think it was mentioned by somebody tonight that, oh, I remember you, but you didn't have a walker then, did you? I'm like, oh yeah, probably not. When I started, I didn't have a walker. But now I have a walker. Why? I'm still here. Makes it easier. That's what we do. I'm going to close, ironically, with a verse from last Sunday. Because Doc was talking about gifts and, you know, how you use them, how you give back, and all those things. Frankly, I'm loath to say that this is a gift. It's not really there for me. But the rest of the abilities that I have are a gift. And in spite of what's happening to me and my body, and God's got that plan, I still need to step up and give back. Like I said, I'm having to work with the state of Kentucky, Microsoft, a bunch of people. Just how can I help other people in the same situation have hope? Because not everything is, not necessarily direct evangelism, but they're going to learn my story. And like the people from the state, they're already reading my hearing bridge. Well, they're hearing my story. God's given me a story to tell. So I'll wrap up with this. Devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and thankful. Pray for us too, that God may open a door for our message. What if all this opened the door that would not otherwise be opened? We don't know. None of us know what we've gone through and what we're going through, how it reaches someone else. And for God's plan for us, just remember Paul's wise counsel. Be wise in the way you act towards others. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. I can be bitter and hide in a hole, or I can embrace the grace and love of Jesus Christ and go, all right, what are we doing today? Because every day is a different challenge, a different opportunity. For that, we thank the Lord for all of that. And that's what I got.